Folks, welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, and this is part 3 of WOKE, LGBTQ and Sanatan Dharma series. This is the last episode. If you haven't already tuned into the previous part 2s, in case if you haven't already tuned into the previous 2 parts, please watch or tune into them. And these episodes can be tuned in any order. And we are glad to have Amishi Seth back on our platform. We have hosted her on our episode number 450, where she covered wonderful insights about Sanatan Dharma. And currently, this is another specially curated series about Wokeism, LGBTQ plus and Sanatan Dharma. And just to give you a brief intro about Amishi Seth, she is a playwright and author. She has 3 books published by Penguin and Landmark, and most of Indians might have already seen or read her books. And her latest book, Answers to Sanatan's Biggest Dharma, our latest book, Answers to Sanatan's Biggest Questions for Teenagers and Young Adults, is now under publication. And in fact, we have done episode number 450 covering nuances of that particular topic. And before I welcome her to the show, let me welcome you all once again. So, folks, you have tuned into the Guiding Voice podcast series, where we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. And I'm your host, Naveen Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place through valuable discussions that add value not only to your life but also to your career. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Amishi, hearty welcome to TGV. Welcome back. And this series has been going really well. And thank you once again for proposing this particular interesting topic, and which is quite enlightening. And let us dive into part 3. And before that, how are you doing today?
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. And I'm feeling quite honored to do this because I've been shocked by what I have found out in my research also. So I think everybody needs to know about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time out to have this conversation.
Pleasure is mine, and let's right jump into the part 3. So, in the last 2 episodes, we have covered about Wokeism basics and also how this Woke relates to LGBTQ and the overall how it is impacting countries like Bharat or India. And now let's switch gears and talk about the relation between Sanatan and LGBTQ. In a way, what does Sanatan say about LGBTQ and gender fluidity? Right. So, since you speak and write a lot about Sanatan Dharma, this question goes to you.
Okay. So, as far as Sanatan is concerned, so before I get into that, a quick recap. Gender fluidity says that your biology has got nothing to do with your gender. So they completely reject the fact that X and X make a female child and X and Y make a male child, and you live and behave and be a male or a female for the rest of your life once you're born. They completely reject that. So you can be a woman in a man's body. You can be a man even though you have a woman's body. Okay, and this has got nothing to do with homosexuality, although the acronym talks about lesbians, gays, and bisexuals. It has got nothing to do with sexual orientation. Now, in Sanatan, okay, so far in all my research and I've read hundreds of things in authentic Sanatani scriptures for my book, Answers to Sanatan's Biggest Questions. I have still not come across any example of either homosexuality or of gender fluidity. Now, before I get into this one caveat, is that just because homosexuality apparently, now Hinduism is vast. You can never read all of it. There's so much to read. There's so much to know. So it's possible I have not come across it.
Okay.
It's possible. I admit.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But in all the research, just because it seems that there was no homosexuality or no transgenderism in Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, that does not invalidate its existence in Kali Yuga. Let's be very clear. Okay, so although it was not there earlier, it is very possible it is there in Kali Yuga. It's valid and it deserves the dignity, honor, and respect that it does. 100%. No two ways about it. But what is happening is, we explained the horrors of gender fluidity last time. People are using certain examples of Sanatan culture to propose the idea of gender fluidity, which is wrong. And these characters are, the first character is Shikhandi. People say Shikhandi means gender fluidity, which is wrong. And I will not get into the full detailed histories of Shikhandi because that will take a lot of time. But I will just tell you why it is not gender fluidity. It's because Shikhandi was born as per Veda Vyas Mahabharata. I'm not referring to any commentaries of Mahabharata. Authentically written by Veda Vyas. Shikhandi was born as a woman, a female child. Everything about her, biologically, behaviorally, everything was that of a female child. She was educated in warfare, in politics, all the makings of a great king. She was educated that way, but biologically, behaviorally, she remained a woman, a heterosexual woman. Later on, it happened because of an encounter with a Gandharva, okay, and a boon and a curse. This lady was transformed into a man, okay, and once he became a man, he lived, behaved as a heterosexual man. Okay? So there is nothing called woman either being trapped in a man's body or a man trapped in a woman's body. It was nothing of the sort. And I know this curse and boon sounds a bit fantastic. But the point is, we are talking about a day and age where people had yogic siddhis. We are talking about celestial beings called Gandharvas. So all of that does not happen in Kali Yuga. So just as the non-existence of transgenderism in Papa Yuga does not invalidate this, the non-existence of our ability to give boons and curses to each other does not invalidate what happened in the past. It's very clear. So, but that is the story of Shikhandi. So Shikhandi was not gender fluid. There was a change of gender done yogically. Second example that people use very often, and I've read articles with regard to this, of gender fluidity is that of King Ila. So King Ila was, again, very briefly, I'll go into the history of King Ila. King Ila was out on a hunt with his army. He happened to enter a forest by mistake. The forest had a curse that any male entering that forest would be transformed into a female. Any male, animal, human, whatever. And hence his entire troop and he himself got transformed into women. So he prayed to goddess Parvati, who happened to be there, Shiva and Parvati. And Parvati said that this is because of Shiva, so I can't take away the curse completely, but I will give you a choice. You will live like a man in your original form for 1 month, and then for the next month, you will become a woman and live like a woman. And this will happen every alternate month. When you're a man, you will not remember your femalehood. When you're a woman, you will not remember your masculinity. So this King Ela was transformed completely into a woman, as beautiful as a goddess, they say. And when he was a king with whatever mustache, beard, whatever he had. So it was a complete biological transformation that also led to a behavioral transformation, heterosexual transformation. And
Yep.
so happened, this thing happened for a whole year until rishis got back. Rishis came to help him, and they of course he didn't remember what was happening to him, right? So rishis told him that this is happening to you. So they decided to do an Ashwamedha Yajna. In that
Mhm.
yajna, they pleased Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva asked, so I told him, okay, what boon do you want? So he said, I want to remain my original form of King Ela for the rest of my life. I want to be freed of this alternating. And then he remained as a man for the rest of his life. Again, there is no woman trapped in a female man's body. It is not gender fluidity, it is gender change. A lot of people say that the word kinnar comes from Sanatan, and I'll tell you where it comes from.
Mhm.
King Ela's army that got transformed into women. Okay. So another rishi came there and he said, now that you are transformed into women, I will turn you into what are called Kim Purushis or Kinnari. Now, Kim Purushis, this is a race of very exalted beings, okay, who are supposed to be the guardians of Kubera and his wealth. These are like, so the Kim Purushas and the Kim Purushis have the heads of lions and the bodies of human beings, while the Kinnaras have heads of centaurs. They have horse and man combination or horse and woman combination. So those are the Kinnars do not mean transgenders. They mean this race of beings. But they have come to be associated with transgenders because the ladies were originally men from King Ela's army, who then were biologically transformed into women and biologically uplifted into this race of uh, celestial beings in their female form, and they lived biologically as heterosexual women of that race. But it is kinder because originally they were men. There is no transgenderism there. Now, having said that, although there is no transgenderism in Sanatan, there is a lot of respect for it. What do I mean? King Ila, for example, is regaled as one of the greatest kings of Bharat.
Mhm.
Nobody mocks him for having turned into a woman. Okay. Shikhandi was given all dignity and respect as one of the greatest commanders of the Pandava army. Nobody mocks him for having turned into a woman. It's not the way he is talked about in the Mahabharata, the way King Ela is presented in the Valmiki Ramayana. It's all out of dignity and respect. And what happened to them is just a fascinating tale, fascinating piece of history that is that is recounted with a lot of dignity and respect. Okay, so it's Sanatan is, but like I said, just because it didn't happen in Satyug, Dwapar Yug, and Treta Yug, it does not mean it cannot happen in Kalyug. And transgenders in India deserve all the opportunity, all the dignity. They deserve to be doctors, lawyers, teachers, philanthropists, whatever it is that they want to be. And I think it's high time our society looked beyond it. But again, you cannot use these examples to say, gender fluidity has always happened in India, and then you can go back to the pronoun debate and the LGBTQ plus gender fluidity debate and say, hey, it is there in your culture all the time. Why don't you embrace it now? Sanatan is on revival, so embrace this part of Sanatan also. It is wrong. And I've read articles written by people supporting the gender theory, citing these examples. So, which examples are historically wrong as examples of gender fluidity?
That's a perfect narration. And this brings to my next question. Like, is there anything in Sanatan Dharma or Sanatan culture that can help in this matter to counter the dangers of Wokeism and this whole LGBTQ plus ideology?
The first thing that is very important for all of us to understand, which is not necessarily a tenet of Sanatan, but we need to understand this about the history of Bharat. We have always been one country, one culture. So, how do we know we are one culture? The same gods are worshipped all across Bharat. So, you have a Kedarnath in the north.
Yeah.
You also have a Rameshwar on the in the south. Both belong to Lord Shiva, abodes of Lord Shiva. You have a Ram who worships Shiva. You have a Shiva who worships Ram. So culturally, we are all east, west, north, south. We are all one. All the classical dances all across Bharat depict the same tales of the Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata. So culturally, we have always been one country. Politically, also, we have always been one country. How? Politically, and I mentioned this, there's an entire chapter in my book, Answers to Sanatan's Biggest Questions, on this. Culturally, politically, there was always this concept of the Chakravarti Samrat.
Mm-hmm.
The Chakravarti Samrat was the emperor of emperors, who all other kings and princely states reported to. So there was a whole series of very complex conditions. So if a particular emperor fulfilled all these conditions in his kingdom, he was eligible to conduct the Raj Suya Yagya, which was throughout Bharat was accepted, and then he became the Chakravarti Samrat. Okay? It's like the prime minister who all the state chief ministers would report to. And not only was this accepted all across Bharat, it was accepted all across the world. Tell you how. Yudhishthir was one such Chakravarti Samrat who did the Rajsuya Yagya. In the Veda Vyas Mahabharata, people from all over the world, kings came to attend his Rajsuya Yagya. There are mentions made of silks from China, horses from Arabia, gifts from Greece, gifts from across the Himalayas, countries across the Himalayas, Afghanistan. Afghanistan, of course, was a part of India at that time. So Egypt, there is a mention of Egypt. So all these kings came to attend the Rajsuya Yagya, which means with loads of gifts for him. which means it was accepted not just in India, but in rest of the countries of the world at that time. So politically also we have always been one country. Let nobody say that we are a faction of princely states and different cultural identities. Our diversity is our strength. Let's understand this concept. Now let's get to the tenets of Sanatan Sanskriti. The first very simple tenet and very obvious tenet, which is there in the Bhagavad Gita, which is there, you know, in the Sanatan ethos, is my duties come before my rights. This is a direct counter to both. Okay, let's get that very. It's only when everybody does their duties properly does society advance, and it's only when society advances individuals advance, because you are then a part of a successful system. Let's understand that very clearly. The third very important tenet, which I think our youth really need to understand, is that we humans, Sanatan science is very clear that the human being exists in five different dimensions. What are those five different dimensions? The first dimension is called the Annamaya Kosha. Annamaya Kosha means your physical body, blood, bones, organs, all of that is the Annamaya Kosha, your body. Remember, it is only one out of five. It's only the first out of five. The second dimension of existence is the Pranamaya Kosha. What is Pranamaya Kosha? Pranamaya Kosha means the energy in your body, which you draw from the universe through your breath. It is that energy that keeps your blood circulating, your digestion happening, your heart pumping. That energy is your Pranamaya Kosha. Now, neither is your Annamaya nor your Pranamaya in your control. You can only do things to keep it healthy. You can only avoid things to disrupt its working. But otherwise, you have no control over it. You don't think, right, while breathing. It happens automatically. You don't pump your heart. It happens. So there's no control over it. Let's understand. The third dimension of existence where control starts to come is your Manomaya Kosha. What is your Manomaya Kosha? Thoughts and emotion. The fourth dimension is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which Vijnan means science, right? Vijnanamaya Kosha. That is the seat of decision making. You decide which thoughts or which emotions you need to act upon and which you need to discard. It's a seat of wisdom and intelligence. That is a Vijnanamaya Kosha. And the last part is the Anandamaya Kosha. Now, Anandamaya has a lot of spiritual and philosophical connotations as well. But to explain it very simply, it is the seat of what inspires you, your value system. Now, let me give you an example. Our soldiers in Siachen, they have completely discounted their Annamaya Kosha, their bodies, because they live in an environment where gangrene can set it, hypothermia can happen, brain hemorrhage can happen, all of that can happen because it's below minus 30 degrees is the maximum temperature there. Okay. So your body is in great peril at that time. Your pranamaya kosha is in peril because oxygen is very, very thin. Energy levels are very thin. You take 3 steps and you need to rest because of the environment, right? Your manamaya kosha is in peril because you're away from your family. You're away from the people you love and you care about. You're missing celebrations. You're missing things. So the manomaya kosha is in distress. Then the vijnanamaya kosha is also a little distressed because you are spending your entire day for months together in preparing for a war that may never happen. Okay, it doesn't make too much logical sense to do that, but they still do it because of their Anandamaya Kosha, which means the seat of duty, values, commitment, love for the country, higher values of patriotism. So, if you want to be successful and great, you have to come from the Anandamaya Kosha down. But what is this gender theory doing? It is keeping people stuck in the first kosha, Annamaya. Everything is about this body and this sense. And the moment you remain stuck there, how will you ever become great? You're fighting something that does not deserve to be fought, that cannot be fought, which is your nature, which is the way you were born, which is your body. So we have to understand that we have to exit the Annamaya Kosha and we have to go to more evolved and higher places of our being. I think this whole obsession with male, female, body, body parts, all of that will just drown if we understand that this is not how the human system works. The human system works from the up down, and there are far greater dimensions to who we are. Who we are is not this body. Who we are the values that we choose to embody. And the final thing about this is the Shiva Shakti, which we spoke about in episode 450 also. Shiva Shakti means so everything in the universe is energy. Okay, God is pure energy. It is this God which is formless, genderless, that took on the forms of everything in the universe. And in order to keep the universe running, so you have this masculine aspect which is called strength, rationality, logic. These are all masculine energies. Female energies are love, sacrifice, patience. Does that mean that a woman cannot be rational and become an engineer? No. Does that mean that a man cannot be an artist or compassionate or a dancer? No. What it means is if you're expanding yourself to becoming God, then you are embracing both energies of masculine and feminine. Which means the more expansive your value system, the more you become courageous and compassionate and rational and loving and patient and physically strong, the more you expand yourself, the more you become more of what you already are. That kind of expansionism, that's where life happens. That's where magic happens. That's where achievement happens. Success happens. Happiness happens. But if you remain stuck in this Annamaya Kosha and me and my body, you will go nowhere. And you will remain stuck, only causing more and more and more problems for you. So I think if we understood this and if we taught our children this, we would have a very different outlook towards life. Then we wouldn't choose to like critical race theory, we wouldn't break society into factions. We would look for points of harmony and collectiveness and expansion rather than contracting everything. I think we need to understand these very practical things about Sanatan and embody them in our lives.
Wonderful. So, personally, this has been a great learning experience for me, and I'm sure it is going to enlighten our audience and they can learn a lot about Sanatan Dharma. And most importantly, is the crucial topics like Wokeism, LGBTQ, and how they are related to Sanatan Dharma or what Sanatan Dharma has to say about these two topics as well. So, Amishi, that brings us to the part three, the last part of this particular series. And thank you so much for taking time and doing this series with us. And I really appreciate it. And I loved all the amazing insights and looking forward to hosting you again in future. All right. So, friends, we did not have the second rapid fire round for the last three episodes because we wanted to keep the episode duration as minimal as possible while giving you as much information as possible. And thank you so much for tuning in. And that was our last episode, part of Wokeism, LGBTQ, and Sanatan Dharma with Amishi Seth. And before we sign off for today, we have a quick request. In case if you haven't already subscribed to TGV, the Guiding Voice podcast, please subscribe from wherever you have tuned in because subscribing keeps you updated on new episodes and you cannot afford to miss the content that is being published on TGV from wonderful insights based on the conversations with speakers across the globe. And if you have enjoyed the conversation and found it useful, please do not hesitate to share with at least three of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV, the Guiding Voice. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you. All right. So that's it for today. And thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. Friends, we would love to hear from you. Do not hesitate to share your ideas, feedback, topic recommendations, and most importantly, guest speaker suggestions either through our social media or you can also email us at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. 4 as in digit 4 and you as letter U. And let's create content that resonates with you. I'm your host, Naveen Samala, a lifelong learner, and my goal is to have impactful conversations that improve not only your life but also your career. So until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember the future holds great things because the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest.